Hey, Rumble World Entertainment, and now that Kathleen Kennedy has actually officially stepped down as president of Lucasfilm, she's not gone, she's just stepped down as president. Questions, of course, are getting asked about all the other properties that she had in the works and stuff like that, and what will happen with the future of other characters that Lucasfilm owned, such as Indiana Jones. And of course, the question now is, after the flop that was Dial of Destiny, what is the future of that character? Are they going to do more? Well, Kathleen Kennedy actually responded to that question when she got asked and stuff. So we're going to have a look at this article that talks about, like, where does this character stand in the future for Lucasfilm? So it's saying, after 5 Indiana Jones films, Kathleen Kennedy has now revealed whether Harrison Ford will reprise the iconic role for another installment in the franchise. This has been a big question mark ever since Indiana Jones and the Dial of Disaster underwhelmed at the box office and received the lowest Rotten Tomatoes score in the franchise. So, this is some of what she says, and this is actually hilarious. So, we are all still here. Steven Spielberg and Frank Marshall and I and Harrison and George. So we get to say whether they're going to be any more or not, she explained. Kennedy also revealed that she has no regrets about releasing Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, despite the status as a box office flop. Ford wanted to star in the film more than anything, as he didn't want the franchise to end with Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Kennedy gave him that opportunity, which was the right thing to do. Now, we're going to look at the full thing, she says, but what's hilarious about it is she basically tries to shift the blame for everything with Dial of Destiny, which she's not taking blame or accountability for anything that's gone wrong with Lucasfilm. She doesn't even mention Willow, but their whole reasoning for doing Dial of Destiny apparently was, oh, well, Harrison wanted to do it. That's it. That's their only reason. Leaving out the fact that the only way you could convince him to come back for Star Wars was to offer him one more Indiana Jones film. And then you kept waiting and waiting and waiting. And it was getting to the stage where we were all like, I think they're waiting for him to die so they don't have to make that movie with him. But it ended up getting to the point where they're like, screw it, the dude's not dying. I suppose we're just going to have to make this movie with him. So I also think it's funny that she's saying Spielberg and Frank Martin, who's her husband, by the way, and George Lucas and stuff, we're all still here, so we get to do it. And it's like, that's weird because you made sure George Lucas and Spielberg weren't going to be involved in the Dial of Destiny in any way. So this is her whole statement, saying, no, I have no regrets about that because Harrison wanted to do that more than anything. He did not want Indy to end with the 4th movie. He wanted a chance at another, and we did that for him. I think that was the right thing to do. He wanted to do that movie. I don't think Indy will ever be done, but I don't think anybody is interested right now in exploring it. But these are timeless movies, and Indy will never be done. That's concerning to hear that. He will never be done, because all that means is remakes. So she continues saying, you never know, but we are all still here. Stephen and Frank and I and Harrison and George. So we get to say whether there's going to be any more or not. I think that part's also interesting that she's saying we get to say whether there's more or not. You don't get to say anymore. You've just stepped down as president. You have no say anymore in what this happens with that franchise. Plus, George doesn't have a say anymore. Spielberg does not. Do you know who has the say for it? Disney. And Disney alone. Which is really the unfortunate thing. But them trying to hint at, hey, could Harrison to do more? Harrison's not going to do more. He's too old now. He really is. Have you seen the latest videos of him walking through New York City? There's a video of him there, I think, coming into December. And it was some guy tried to ask him for an autograph, and he was his typical, like, get the fuck away from me kind of thing. He looked like proper, like a geriatric old fart. Even though that's exactly what he is. But he's like hunched over now, walking and stuff. Like, the man just seemed to have aged in a day. It was like, whoa. Like, that's insane. Not a hope is he ever coming back for it. Unless, of course, to do like what they did with the young Indiana Jones, where that first episode opens and it's him narrating it, where you have him sitting there as old man Indiana Jones and starts telling you this whole story. But the concerning part, as I've said, is the fact that she says Indy will never be done. So that is a clear indication that there is options to continue these stories without Harrison Ford, that they're going to recast and do more stories. They'll probably just reboot the whole thing, which I think is terrible. But you see there as well, where it's like, oh, Harrison didn't want to end on that fourth movie. He wanted another one, and we thought this was the right thing to do for him, so we gave him this movie. And yet absolutely destroyed the character. The guy on that screen was not Indiana Jones. That was Stevie Jones. That was not Indiana. Because, again, she's conveniently leaving out the fact that Harrison's negotiation for coming back for Star Wars was, I'll do it as long as you give me one more outing with Indiana Jones. And they were like, yep, no problem. And then, as I said, rather than doing Star Wars and then moving right into working on an Indiana Jones, they just kept delaying it. And it was a year, then it was 2 years, then it was 3, then it was 4, then it was like, wow, are you ever going to do this movie while he could possibly still do it? He was 79 by the time that movie came out, going on 80. So, like, he made it, he was 79, it comes out, he was 80. It was like, that's a joke. And realistically, nobody wanted to watch an 80-year-old Indiana Jones. And then the things they did in that movie was just shocking. Like, they broke up him and Miriam just so they could give you the same ending that you got in Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls, with the two of them finally together. They killed the son, if you remember, by the son, just to get back at Indiana Jones, because he doesn't like war, was to sign up for Vietnam, go to, I think it was Vietnam, go over and die in that war, just to get back at the father. Obviously, he didn't plan to die, but he died in it. But he signed up and went just to get back at Indiana Jones. It was like, that is one of the most retarded things I think I've ever heard. What are you doing? And then, of course, the biggest insult and kick to the face of every fan of Indiana Jones, including Harrison Ford, was, well, we're going to have Indiana Jones want to give up and say screw history by the end of this movie and just wants to stay in the past and die. It's like, what? And then Phoebe Waller-Bridge, of course, knocks him out with one punch. It was like, oh my god. But are we going to get more Indiana Jones? And specifically, are we going to get more Indiana Jones under Steven Spielberg and George Lucas? Absolutely not. Because again, they have no say in it anymore. Are we going to get it under Kathleen Kennedy and Frank Marshall? Marshall? Probably not. Kennedy may have a producer role in something, but she will have no say in whether or not it gets greenlit and stuff anymore. Will we get Harrison Ford back as Indiana Jones? 100,000% no, because he's far too old now and nobody wants to see that. Will we get more Indiana Jones from Disney? 1000% yes. And it's gonna probably be a train wreck. But what do you guys think? Do you think we have seen the last of Indiana Jones? Do you think we've seen the last of Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones? And what do you think about her excuse for the Dial of Destiny? Especially being a bomb, not taking accountability to say, well, we did the character dirty and we tried to make it a girl boss movie. We were really pushing for Phoebe Waller-Bridge to take over and we just didn't know what we were doing. Or the fact that she just wants to go, oh no, we just did it because Harrison wanted to do it. Let me know what your thoughts are. And with that, I shall leave it there for this one. So do like, share, subscribe and all that good stuff. Hit the hype button, check out memberships, everything else. Cheers. Catch you in the next one.